Welcome back to Tennis Town, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I want to talk about a topic that's been pretty interesting. Basically, who's been watching tennis and basically thought to themselves, wow, don't you just feel like the players today are just playing so much further into their lives compared to 15, 20 years ago? I've been watching tennis for a long time. I'm 28 years old now, so I was probably watching in the mid to late 90s already, watching Pete Sampras and stuff like that back in those days. And it hit me a while back. I was thinking to myself, why is it that today players seem to be playing so much later into their careers? And obviously the first thought that jumped out at me was, maybe a physical evolution of the human race, seeing as, we seem to be living longer. So it just kind of made sense that maybe tennis players are also playing tennis further into their lives, being able to perform at the highest level, later in their life. But in saying that, I wanted to have a look and maybe see what other information I could find. And I came across a pretty interesting article. It was saying that the main reason for players today actually being able to play further on in their lives than 15, 20 years ago was due to prize money. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. Maybe that's one of the factors, but it was an interesting, angle to look into further. Basically, if you look 15, 20 years ago, prize money at the top of the game was nowhere near what it is now. So, for example, when McEnroe won Wimbledon, he got about £100,000. Whereas today, I don't know, what are they making, like £1 million or something like that, more or less? But long story short, the difference in prize money now is much more than it was 15, 20 years ago. Due to this, increase in economic disparity between prize money won for players at the top of the game compared to prize money won by players that are playing, lower ranked tournaments, such as futures and satellites and things like that. Or challenges, I think they call them now. If you look at the prize money won by players playing futures and challenges, it's actually been decreasing, if not staying more or less moderately the same. But there has been a decrease, sort of year over year for the past, I don't know how many years. And if you compare that to the huge increase in prize money at the top of the game, then that makes for a big disparity. If you're looking at players that outside the top 200, they're basically backpackers, trying to perform at the highest level against players like, that are in the top 10 that have the luxury of traveling with, one, even two coaches like Federer does, physios, nannies to make sure that the kids are taken care of so you don't get a terrible sleep, the night before a semi-final or a final, things like that. So, it does make a big difference. We had, Djokovic sleeping in these kind of special, hydraulic chambers or whatever you call them. But these are luxuries that maybe, the top players are able to, source, you could say. They're able to source a competitive advantage over their competition because the competition, they just can't afford that. You look at players outside the top 200, he doesn't have a physio with him, he doesn't have a coach with him. And then on top of that, if he or she does win any prize money in a tournament, in a challenger or futures tournament, it's not much. And what they do win, they're going to have to spend it for the next tournament anyway, getting their flights, accommodation, food, all of that, rackets, restrings. And the list goes on. So, that's an interesting point that, with the prize money, it, does cause a disparity. And this disparity allows the top players to remain at the top longer. There is some truth to it. If you look at the stats, the average age of the top 10 players has definitely gone up. Now, of course, we're in an era where we've got, Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal, dominating for the past, I don't know how many years, it's been like 15 years now. But on top of that, if you look at the top 100 players, again, there's been less of a, you'd call it a rotation of the top 100 players than we've seen in a very long time. That reinforces basically the argument about the prize money, because the top 100 are making much better money than they used to 20 years ago. However, the lower ranked players are still, getting even, less money, less prize money than they were before. Not to mention endorsements as well. Endorsement money is just through the roof. I don't know how much Federer makes, but he made so much endorsement money, like 50 million or something, that, he's consistently ranked in the Forbes top richest athletes in the world. So, again, that all makes a difference. I guess it's a bit of a shame because, I'd love to see more young players breaking through. And even just have a look for yourselves. If you look at the men's rankings now, you look at how many players are, under let's say 20 years of age. That just doesn't happen anymore. At the end of the day, it is what it is, but I guess it's a bit of a shame. Personally, I'd love to see more young players breaking through like they used to. Back in the day, you had Leighton Hewitt in 2000 or 2001 became the youngest world number one at the time. He had Marat Safin as a great player. I loved him so much. Aside from that, he also became, the youngest world number one at the time. And there are also at the time many other great young players as well, you know, in the top 20. You look now, it's much harder for players to make it through those, you know, challenger and futures ranks in order to get into the top 100. There's, you know, you feel like there's maybe less new players coming through every year compared to before, like I said, and that explains lesser rotation of the top 100 players. And, you know, maybe it's financial. I mean, let me know what you guys think. I'm not a huge fan of making excuses for players or whatever, but I do think that in this case, there is some truth to it. I'm sure there are many other reasons. I probably didn't think of them, but guys, if you have some other reasons as to why, you know, we're seeing less of a rotation in the top 100 and why or how players seem to be playing later into their careers, into their life, please guys, let me know in the comments. And guys, like always, please like and subscribe the video if you're happy with the content. Tennis Town is back and we'll be posting videos every week, at least once a week, if not more than that. So guys, thank you so much for your support. It means the world. I'm so glad to be back and seeing you guys again. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm just a tennis fan like you guys. So guys, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.